Good afternoon, or good morning, everyone. We're earlier today than my usual schedule. Welcome to today's webinar. Today we're at Ursuline College in Pepper Pike, Ohio, and we're going to be talking about their graduate and undergraduate historic preservation program here. Before we get started, I just want to cover a few things. We're going to be taking questions at the end of the webinar, but please feel free to send questions in. You can type those into your chat box and they'll get delivered right away to us. Also, just to go over any technical difficulties you may have during the webinar, the best solution is to sign out, click the link that was sent to you and sign back in. And if you're on the telephone, just hang up and recall the number. So if you notice anything like your slides aren't advancing or the sound gets really choppy, 99% of the time that will conquer those problems for you. Before we get started, I'd just like to introduce everyone on today's webinar. We have a full panel today of a professor, ex-students, and current students of the program. And to start off, we have Dr. Bari Stith with us. She's going to be handling most of the presentation of the day. And we also have Alumni Mary Ogle with us, and current students Margaret Lann, Rachael Toth, and Elizabeth Meinke with us. And I'm going to turn it over to Bari right now. You can start.
Well, thank you very much, Devin, and welcome all of you to Historic Preservation at Ursuline College. Our mission here is to prepare tomorrow's leaders to make sustainable and unique contributions to their world by preserving cultural memory and its lessons. But of course, when someone says historic preservation, do you ever really wonder what that means? What is it that these young preservationists do? Well, they have constructed their own mantra for our program, and you see it here: heritage, investigate, protect, inspire. In other words, they investigate the best of the environment around them, whether it's the natural environment or the built environment, and they make those initial appraisal decisions. What holds the most cultural memory for a community or a neighborhood or a people? And from those decisions, what needs to be protected? We can't keep everything. So what is best to protect, and how do you protect? How do you bring the energy, that enthusiasm, the financial and cultural resources in order to protect whatever that special place happens to be? And from there, how do you inspire people to understand the uniqueness of that place and to protect it and to keep using it within their community? This slide shows you a little bit about what we're going to be going over in the next 10 to 15 minutes. I'll try to cover each one of these points in a little bit more depth, but from there I'm going to be turning it over to our alumni and several of our soon-to-be alumni. They have really rich experiences, not only here at Ursuline, but out in their communities as well, and I'd like you to hear from them the exciting work that they're doing. We're very, very proud to have them with our program. Why historic preservation at Ursuline? Well, we do have a variety of degree programs. We have a Bachelor of Arts with both the option of a major and a minor. The Bachelor of Arts is a typical 128-hour degree, but within that you have 57 hours of major, or you could do a 24-hour minor. From there, students who understand that really the best way to break into the profession is to have that Master of Arts degree, because well over 30% of most job applicants will have a Master of Arts for this kind of a profession. And so most of them will understand that one of the best ways to move straight into the Master of Arts degree is to take advantage of the Bridge program. The Bridge program allows qualified juniors and seniors at the undergraduate level to take graduate level classes, which means that by the time they're actually ready to start the Master of Arts degree, they only have 24 credit hours left to complete the degree. And within about 5 years, they'll come out into the profession with both degree programs in hand. Now, many of our students come to us from other bachelor programs all over the region, all over the United States, and from really varied backgrounds, not just history, humanities, and historic preservation, but film studies, visual communication design, architecture, art history. There are a plethora of degree programs, and they bring us really, really vibrant resources and experiences as they come into our masters. For them, it's a 42 credit hour degree commitment, and for them then, they move right out into the profession with the Master of Arts. One of the things I always tell students when they're looking at any degree program, no matter what the level, is to look at the course offerings and spend some time with the course descriptions. Ours are online, as I'm sure many colleges and universities are as well. If the course titles and the descriptions of the courses look interesting to you, then that's the time to really start pursuing that particular degree program. So if any of these on the screen look interesting to you, please check out the descriptions on our website. Another reason that we're very proud of our program here at Ursuline is because of the faculty expertise. It's diverse, it's broad, it's deep. There are a number of faculty members that work with our program, and they range in so many ways. They range from not long out of graduate school all the way up to having had multiple decades of experience in preservation around the United States. So they range in age, they range in backgrounds from preservation, history, architecture, business, and of course when you're with us at Ursuline, one of the things that you're doing is spending time in class with people who are not only faculty members, but are also real-life practitioners in the field. So when you take your preservation law class, you'll be taking it with an instructor who is an attorney at law who specializes in preservation law. When you take your grant writing class, you'll be taking that with one of our business professors who specializes in grant writing, public relations, and marketing, and is actively out writing grants and receiving them. You know, when you work with documentation and recording, you'll be working with a young architect who does that for his firm. When you take a course in preservation planning or adaptive reuse, you'll be working with an instructor who is actively out working in these communities, frequently as a consultant, doing preservation plans and adaptive reuse plans and feasibility studies. When you take your conservation studio course, you'll be working with an instructor who has his own conservation preservation business and spends most of his day, 365 days a year pretty much, out physically working on structures. And what I love about this is that these instructors not only bring their experience to you in the classroom, but you'll spend the greater part of your time outside of the classroom using Northeastern Ohio as a real learning lab. So they'll be taking you out to their projects and to the projects of your friends. We really take shameless advantage of networking and all the energy that's here in Northeastern Ohio. I think location is very important when you choose a preservation program because that's the area that you're going to be spending your time in, where you're going to be choosing your projects. And Ursuline is a lovely, very green campus that surrounds a lake, and our campus is surrounded by an exceptionally nice suburb of Cleveland, Pepper Pike, and we're not far from Beechwood as well. This is an exceptionally nice area, and we are very close to a real variety of resources. Just as our professors run the gamut from being focused on urban or suburban or rural projects, we are within 20 minutes to 45 minutes or so from a plethora of different kinds of projects as well. So we're a half hour from centuries-old Cleveland. It's got a wonderful, wonderful architectural heritage. There's an ever-changing downtown with beautiful, beautiful buildings dating back at least 150 years to right up to today, and a really vibrant lakefront. So if you're interested in urban preservation planning, there's just so many resources here. We're also very fortunate to be near to an incredible number of ethnic neighborhoods. So you can see how waves of migration and changing cultural heritage has changed the landscape here. I think probably we'd all agree that Little Italy is one of our favorites. Not only does it have a wonderful, wonderful architectural heritage, it's near to Lakeview Cemetery, which is important to us. But let's face it, when we're on field trips down there, we either start the field trip with spaghetti or pizza, or we end the field trip with cannolis, one way or the other. And what else can we say about Little Italy other than great food and great place? Of course, one of my real passions has always been small town community and rural areas. And we're within 10 minutes of a lovely, lovely small town area, Chagrin Falls. I'm sure many of you know it, a charming New England town. But that's not the only one. And within 30 minutes of Chardon, which is one of my own personal favorite places in the world. We're within about 45 minutes of Mesopotamia, and in between all kinds of different small New England style villages with wonderful, wonderful heritage and traditions. And if you like the countryside, if you're interested in barns or Amish culture areas or any kind of a rural landscape, we're within anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour of that kind of beautiful landscape as well. We're right here on the edge of Cuyahoga, looking right over at Geauga County, which, let's face it, is just one of the arguably most beautiful counties in the state of Ohio, says the person who lives out there. As one of our students has so aptly said, our classrooms have no walls, but many of our projects do, and we use those real-life learning laboratories as extensively as we possibly can. It's an interdisciplinary program. We base in experiential learning, as I've said. We like to get you out of the classroom into the place as much as you are in the classroom. And here you see here, we have internships in independent studies, historic site partnerships. We're very excited to keep expanding those opportunities according to the interest of the student. This is just a quick list of a few of the most recent internships that students have done. It's not an extensive list. It's not every place they've been. But you see here, I think, a wonderful diversity with planning commissions, the Cleveland Restoration Society, which is an incredible resource here. We have wonderful architectural firms. Here you see Herman Gibbons and Fodor. We are so lucky to be very close to multiple National Park Service historic sites. And I mean, is there anything more beautiful than the James A. Garfield House out in Mentor, Ohio? They've been wonderful with our students. We have the Cuyahoga Valley at our back door. We're fortunate to be less than 10 minutes from the Maltz Museum of Jewish History, which is a state-of-the-art, statewide, if not nationally known museum. Shaker Historical Museum and Western Reserve Historical Society have been really wonderful with our students and are fantastic resources. You know, these are just a few. I could spend the next hour and 15 minutes talking to you about the resources around us and the people who've been wonderful in working with our students, but that's not really what all you want to hear. You see here Stan Hewitt Hall and Gardens. These are the types of specialized workshops that we have available to the students. Whenever possible, we take the students down as a group. Other times they have a lot of initiative, and we try to collect the information for them, and many times they'll go on their own. And these are just regional. To think about what the statewide resources are as well. Heritage Ohio are so pleased and thank them for being here today. But they've been really terrific with our students, as has the Ohio Historic Preservation Office. And I think we're doing some, making some inroads with the Ohio Historical Society. Of course, it's 3 hours away, but those are still wonderful options for our students. We also believe that anytime students can get out at conferences, that it's imperative to their network and to their education. A number of them will be going to Heritage Ohio in a few weeks over in Toledo, so I hope we're going to see all of you there as well. That's a wonderful statewide conference. And here you see pictures of students in Nashville at the annual Preservation Conference in 2009. National Trust for Historic Preservation puts on a fabulous conference. You also see pictures of them down in Austin, and if you're in Austin in 2010, of course some of us had to run down to the Alamo, to San Antonio. I don't have pictures of the Buffalo Conference, I'm realizing. I realized that when I made my PowerPoint, but our students were out at Buffalo in 11 as well. So we enjoy college support and lots of enthusiasm for attending those. One of the elements of our program that we believe is very important is that as students are moving through the curriculum, we want them to be thinking very seriously about the kinds of projects they're doing within their courses. And we want to see real-life projects that they can use in their portfolio when they start moving out into the community job hunting. So here you see not only students at work, but you also see a listing of some of the kinds of portfolio items that students are preparing within their classrooms. And we like to see those portfolio items reach a professional level, because by graduation, we want them to have hopefully an e-portfolio working on now, but also the hard copy portfolio. So when they're out interviewing and someone says, well, I really was looking for 3 to 5 years of experience, the student can say, well, I've spent the last year, year and a half, 2 years, in historic preservation program, and I'd like you to see my National Register nomination, which, by the way, has been accepted by the United States Secretary of the Interior. I'd like you to see the Heritage Resource Survey of this neighborhood, that Planning Commission or that Area Development Corporation is actually using this to spur their development. And of course, we can talk a lot about those kinds of projects on paper, but the other things that we'd like our students to move out of the program with is some real experience. We'd like them to be able, and they will spend time glazing windows, pointing brick, repairing foundation, hefting up those barn beams and replacing them. So there's a very physical element, particularly in conservation studio, and that means they'll be able to get out and work on those projects in the profession. Are the students out working now? They sure are, and this is just a few of the places where our students are working today. We're a young program. In the last 3 years, come this spring, we'll have graduated 4 classes of students. So we're a very young program, but they're moving out and they're making wonderful, wonderful contributions. A lot of times parents or friends will say, oh, you're getting a degree in historic preservation. Well, where can you work with that? So our website and here on the PowerPoint gives you a listing of all the different kinds of places that you can go. The National Park Service is the largest single employer of preservationists in the United States. So we're happy to have those partnerships with them as well as others. I am very privileged. I have this really talented group of students. I really do, and they're sitting here kind of giggling. I'm chuckling, but they really are very talented, and they're making wonderful contributions. And I'm privileged to be here with 4 of my group today, and I'd like to turn it over to them, and I'll introduce each one of them as they get ready to talk about their experiences, their successes, their achievements. This is a very talented group of young professionals, so I hope that you'll be fascinated to hear what they're doing. My first student is actually an alumni now. I'd like to introduce Mary Ogle, who did her thesis on the LaSalle Theater. She has had lots of successes, and she's out working in the profession now. So you can see here what I've said about Mary was that her National Register nomination was unanimously accepted by the State Advisory Board and the U.S. Secretary of the Interior. She has had experience with Northeast Shores Development Corporation using her feasibility assessment as well as her National Register nomination. She also is now full-time with the Cleveland Restoration Society, which is a really wonderful, wonderful resource for us here in Cleveland. So Mary has a very broad experience that she has developed just in the last few years since she started the program. So Mary, please tell us what you're doing today and about your experiences. And
thank you, Dr. Stith, for that lovely introduction. When I first started my experience here at Ursuline College in the Historic Preservation Department, it was really impressed upon me that the graduate experience is really an independent study. And so I took that as a challenge to make the most of this new venture that I was starting off on. And I was really proactive in getting internships and meeting people and getting out there in the field to really understand what the historic preservation profession was all about. And I was fortunate to be able to get a wide range of experience that Dr. Stith had mentioned. I was able to get an internship as a research assistant for a local history publication. And I was a co-creator for an exhibit here on campus on the Czech American community in Cleveland. I was also an archivist for a local congregation and happily the program assistant for the department. But throughout these opportunities, I was able to connect my activities to my coursework. So I was kind of double dipping in the learning process and gaining practical experience. And even though my work was really independent, I had an overwhelming amount of support through every department in the college, and especially Dr. Stith, so thank you for that. But the culmination of my experience was, of course, your thesis. And my thesis topic first started out linked to the campus exhibit and the Czech American community. So I was down at Western Reserve Historical Society looking through pictures and looking through old newspaper clippings, and I heard a gentleman's voice at the reference desk saying that he was working to get this theater on the National Register, and he needed all the information that WRHS could find. And so the librarian started asking him questions, parcel data, dates, architects, whatnot, and he didn't know how to answer. So I took the opportunity and I went up to him and I said, I am Mary Ogle, I'm a historic preservation graduate student, and this is what I do. I'd love to help you out with the National Register nomination. And he said, okay, thank you. So before we both left, he approached me again and said, I'd really like to contact you about this National Register nomination. Can you do it for me? So I said, okay, well, we can talk about it. And throughout those conversations and working with him, him is Brian Friedman, from the Executive Director of Northeast Shores Development Corporation, I was able to parlay that into my thesis topic. And for the next couple months, I researched about the LaSalle Theater on East 185th Street and wrote the National Register nomination and worked with the Ohio Historic Preservation Office and successfully got the LaSalle Theater on the National Register of Historic Preservation as of June 2011. So all of that experience has prepared me for where I am today. As Dr. Stith mentioned, I am at the Cleveland Restoration Society. I am a program assistant with my main responsibilities focused on the Heritage Home Program. If you are unfamiliar with the Heritage Home Program, we like to think of it as our community development tool for neighborhoods. We see historic preservation just as that, as a community development tool where we are improving the economic viability of our neighborhoods, contributing to the community, and improving the overall well-being for everybody by utilizing our historic structures. So through the Heritage Home Program, I work with homeowners who have questions about their home, their older homes, and other questions about repairs or when it was made or how to do certain repairs. Yeah, so with that, I guess I'll turn it over to Margaret Lann.
Well, Mary, thank you. And Mary was one of our earliest students in our program and has in many ways set the tone for the energy and what we've been able to do. And as you can see, she's gathered this plethora of experience, and she just graduated last spring. So Mary hasn't been out of the program all that long, but look at all the contribution that she has made and the people that she's worked with. Next, I would like to introduce Margaret Lin, whose thesis topic was Behind the Wall, the Painter Estate and the Ursuline Nuns of Cleveland, Ohio. And this was a tremendous thesis. Margaret had a wonderful, wonderful story about how she sort of stumbled into the thesis topic. And so much of her energy and her coursework really focused on providing support to what the Beaumont School for Girls wanted to do with the Painter Estate and the Painter Mansion. As she was finishing up her degree, Margaret began email corresponding and chatting with Frost. And Frost is a business that has this wonderful, wonderful business heritage here in northeastern Ohio, and they have been expanding. Actually, it might be larger than northeastern Ohio now that I come to think about it. But they've been expanding into a historic preservation division. And so we've been very excited about all the work that Frost is doing in the community. And of course, Margaret is working with them full-time now and has been a major source, I think, of resource and inspiration there. And so she has these wonderful stories about what she's been doing, and she too is making an incredible contribution to the community. So please, Margaret, tell us, how are things going today and what you're up to?
Thank you for that introduction, Dr. Stith. I appreciate it. I was fortunate enough just 1 month after starting my studies here at Ursuline to receive a letter in the mail from my high school alma mater here in Northeast Ohio, Beaumont High School, saying that they were purchasing a building that was that sits on their campus and used to be a convent for the Ursuline nuns on that campus. There was no longer enough of a Ursuline population to inhabit the building, so the high school was purchasing the building from the nuns, and they hoped to adaptively reuse the Painter Mansion, the Painter Estate, for some of their ongoing expansion and administration. The building had originally been a high school when the nuns purchased it from the Painter family in 1942, and then over the years, as the high school grew and development occurred, newer buildings in the 60s were built for students, and the Painter Mansion became convent only. So the mansion itself has a very interesting history. It had really only been owned by the family that built it. It was originally built in 1905 as a summer home, and then was owned by Ursuline nuns and eventually Beaumont High School, which is within the same family of the Ursuline nuns. I was able to tailor this project into much of my curriculum over the coursework throughout the master's degree. And as Mary had said, we had a lot of independence in our graduate program. So whenever I could, I would work my thesis topic into whatever assignments or whatever we were learning. It gave me the benefit of approaching my topic from so many different angles and really having a full and complete understanding of the structure and of all the history of the peoples who had owned the structure, the history of Cleveland Heights, which is the suburb of Cleveland that the structure exists in. And I was just really able to draw on so many different areas of cultural heritage to include that in my thesis. What's nice as well is the relationship that I have with Beaumont High School and with the project has continued to develop even after my thesis has been defended and published and after graduation. I recently was able to meet members of the original Painter family and take them through their family home and provide them with a history and a perspective that they hadn't been able to have before. As the high school continues to do some renovation and alterations and develop the project, they have been kind enough to consult with me and include me on what's going on. So I kind of get to see this project move from its infancy through development, and hopefully will maintain my relationship with them till it's completed, till the adaptive reuse has been completed. With my studies here, I found that I had a very well-rounded education, and I was continually provided with a number of networking opportunities. Our adjunct faculty, as Dr. Stith mentioned, has been amazing, both with their own careers and what they do, and then where we as students were taken in the classroom and on field trips. We were introduced to any number of preservation-oriented groups, nonprofits, community development corporations, architectural firms, preservation consultants. All of that played a role in our education. And through that type of education, I was really able to network and see all of these preservation opportunities that were available here in Northeast Ohio, but of course across the country. I chose to do an internship with the Cleveland Restoration Society, and that gave me a view of a nonprofit and a feeling for any number of projects that could be done in an advocacy-based and community level. As Dr. Stith said, I recently was hired by Frost Building Maintenance full-time, and they're a restoration contractor here in Northeast Ohio. I was hired as an historic preservationist for our new subdivision, which is Frost Architectural Preservation. The owners, Greg and Kathleen Frost, have run and operated Frost Building Maintenance for the last 18 years, and they found that there was a need with their client and within this area for historic preservation in building restoration, people who are specifically interested in accurate building materials and restoring homes, commercial properties, liturgical structures to reflect, how they were built and to maintain their architectural heritage. So our new subdivision really focuses on the appropriate restoration techniques with exterior building repair, masonry, wood restoration, etc. But now, by having a historic preservationist on staff, we can offer other types of services as well. I can offer the service of a National Register nomination, building research, anything that would entail all the paperwork to have your structure recognized or honored in some way. And in fact, we just found out yesterday that a home that we nominated has won Heritage Ohio's Best Residential Rehabilitation, and we are so honored. It's winning something like that showcases the hard work and restoration skills that Frost Building Maintenance and Frost Architectural Preservation have executed, but it really especially honors the homeowners who have put the effort and commitment into fully restoring their home to in an architecturally correct and historically correct manner. We hope that providing services like this will encourage other property owners to aspire to the same level of restoration. I think one of the challenges that I've encountered working in the restoration contracting area is balancing advocacy with the realities of construction. Every day we deal with cost, building materials, building and zoning codes, inspections, deadlines, and as a preservationist, of course, I always want to see the building restored, and that isn't always an option. But because of my education and because of all the networking that we've been able to do, I can rely on my colleagues like Mary at the Cleveland Restoration Society to assist me. And sometimes it's a matter of helping the clients find the funding sources or working with the local landmarks commission so that you can sensitively approach an alteration or the restoration of a structure. So in my career, I'm finding a way, I hope, to balance some of the advocacy and preservation passion that we've developed here with the real world in restoration contracting.
Oh,
Thank you.
Margaret, thank you. That's wonderful. And congratulations. Congratulations to everybody. The awards program through Heritage Ohio and the one through Cleveland Restoration Society, I think, are just incredible programs for bringing awareness and fostering and nurturing more preservation. And Margaret obviously has a really wonderful story. I want to congratulate her on all the work that she's done with Frost. It's very nice to be moving through the community and seeing Frost banners and knowing that they've expanded into the architectural preservation. Can always use that kind of energy here in northeastern Ohio. And congratulations to Margaret because she's getting ready to graduate. She finished her coursework in the fall and she's graduating this spring with Ursuline. So we're also lucky that she and Mary are still in the community so that we have that energy and enthusiasm. I would like to introduce another young professional, Rachael Toth, who's been doing an incredible amount of work on a small place called the South Newberry Union Chapel. And you see here her thesis titles of Fight for Change, the story of Union Chapel. Rachael is not only a homegrown young Geoggan, but has developed this wonderful, wonderful rapport with historical resources and women's history. And so she's been focusing a lot of her coursework in preservation on Union Chapel, National Register nomination, which, congratulations to Rachael, is also wonderfully accepted by the U.S. Secretary of the Interior. As she focuses a lot of her coursework on this particular lovely little structure, she's also been working very actively out in Geauga with the Geauga Park District because the structure is pretty well surrounded by Geauga Park District property. Sometimes when you say county park, you think about a small organization, but the Geauga County Park District actually manages over 9,000 acres in Geauga County, has 2 big, beautiful nature centers. And so Rachael has been a wonderful resource to them. They've been a wonderful resource to her, as well as working with the Union Chapel trustees in order to restore and to maintain this really unique structure. So Rachael, too, has lots of wonderful stories and successes to tell, as well as successes for her future. So I'm going to turn it over. Please, Rachael, tell us about
your experience.
experiences.
Thank you very much for your kind introduction. Yes, I began with Union Chapel and in the Masters of Arts program here at Ursuline College in the fall of 2009. Right after I started the program, I happened to have the opportunity to go into Union Chapel, which was rarely opened at that time, in that September. And I immediately fell in love with the structure. The structure was built in 1858 by local citizens who were infuriated after James A. Garfield, who at the time was just a professor at what would become Hiram College, was not permitted, per se, to speak at the local church that was across the street because of his views and ideals. This sparked the interest in creating a building that was open for free speech and was never closed to any individual. Union Chapel would be a simple vernacular structure, but what it did and its impact on the community is actually truly amazing. It was a part of the suffrage movement, the temperance movement, and really housed a lot of the events that occurred in Newberry, Ohio. My original degree was actually in history at Kent State University, and I had driven by that structure a million times heading to Kent and back home because I grew up in Middlefield and currently live there, and I had never really noticed it. And after I entered the building and realized what a rich history it had, I decided it had to be my project for my thesis. And the courses at Ursuline College provided me with the tools to make a difference in the Union Chapel project. In this past spring, the Union Chapel Advisory Board was formed, and I had the opportunity to serve as a member of that board. This has allowed me to complete various building evaluations on the structure, along with a National Register nomination, which, as Dr. Stith mentioned, was recently approved. I have really enjoyed the networking I've been able to have with this organization. I've met various individuals in multiple fields that have helped me along my path to complete my thesis. This has truly been a unique experience. When I was completing my bachelor's degree, I had no idea what kind of opportunities Ursuline had for us. And I was able to tailor a lot of my classes toward my projects and things that interested me. I wasn't forced to do whatever was accepted by the professor. The professor really opened the door for me to work on Union Chapel, and my biggest opportunity was in John Brunel's conservation studio, where I got to test the material inside the chapel, find out what kind of paint was used, what kind of mortar was currently on the building, and from there I was able to advise the Union Chapel Advisory Board on what should happen next. They have been really open to me and have allowed me to bring in people from various fields. As Margaret with the Frost Group, we hope that they'll be able to come and do an evaluation of Union Chapel and give their suggestions for what we should do in the future. So this has been, my education at Ursuline College has been extremely good. I have been able to be a part of the Burton Memory Project that is currently going on, where we are meeting with local older citizens in the community and forming relationships with them in the hope of doing oral histories with them that will preserve for the next generation. Now that I'm completing my degree here at Ursuline College, I will be graduating this spring. I was recently accepted at Cleveland State University for their PhD in Urban Studies program, which I'm considering going to this upcoming fall. Which will, when I spoke to them, they talked about what a great program Ursuline had to offer, and that is part of the reason that they thought I would be a great addition to their students and have a great impact on their community. So based on that, I think that is, really a culmination of the experience I've had here at Ursuline College, and I will turn it back over to Dr. Stith.
Well, Rachael, thank you. Rachel's done an amazing job and worked with some wonderful, wonderful organizations. And as a professor, this is really fun for me because it opens up the door to new and exciting partnerships, and the students are really on the cutting edge of what we are doing in preservation today. It keeps it all very fresh and very new. And Rachael has done an incredible amount of work. And as you kind of see as you listen to Mary, Margaret, and Rachael, the three that have presented so far, there's a bonding here. They've all been wonderful mentors for each other, and they continue to take that out into the profession, which is very, very important for all of us. So we're very excited about the work that Rachael has done with Union Chapel and with the Geauga Park District. There's been a wonderful mentor for her as well. Next, I would like to introduce Elizabeth Meinke. And Elizabeth is working on a preservation thesis that's a little bit different than what you've heard so far. The working title is Life and Legacy of Charlotte Rumbold, a study on Rumbold's impact on the built world and municipal policy of Cleveland, Ohio. Elizabeth has done a large number of projects very similar to the kinds of projects that Mary, Margaret, and Rachael have done. She's worked in the Huff Lab area. She's done internships at the Cleveland Restoration Society. She too has a really wide and wonderful portfolio that she's taking out into her future. But her thesis is a little different in that she has a wonderful story about the way she discovered this little-known lady and all the lessons that she's learning as she researches Charlotte's life. So Elizabeth, please tell us about your activities and what you're doing today.
Thank you for the introduction. As you've heard, my thesis endeavor is a little bit different. I'm a little bit different too, but that's okay. I took on a more of a biographical approach, a more, I guess, a human evaluating the human side of historic preservation. I feel I would not have been able to pursue such a unique project at any other institution involving historic preservation, specifically because of Ursuline College's small liberal arts atmosphere. And perhaps I'm echoing the sentiments of my fellow students, but you're really able to forge your own path, and I truly value that, especially coming from my experiences educationally in very large public high schools, very large state colleges. So I've really come to value the small liberal arts atmosphere here at Ursuline College that lets you delve out your own path. Not only does that make it a more enjoyable experience, which I feel it should be, but it really lets you tailor your work, your course of study towards your anticipated career in preservation. If you're interested in policy, let's say, there are a lot of opportunities with governments or nonprofit organizations. If you're interested in the more technical side of preservation, there are several opportunities in the private sector. Thank you. And where I've sort of found my niche is with research and writing, which has led me to pursue a career in the LIS profession, and I'll be starting an MLIS degree this fall, and I'll be finishing up my thesis on the lady, as I call her, Charlotte Rumbold, who worked in urban planning here in Cleveland and contributed to urban planning's history and policy in the United States in the early 20th century. And I feel I would never have come to these conclusions had any of these opportunities, had I not had my experience at Ursuline College, and I would highly consider that when looking at other preservation programs. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Elizabeth. I'm so excited about the work that she's done. It's such a wonderful combination of social history, women's history, combined with preservation and urban planning, and it's an unusual combination but a very powerful one. And all of these students have done really, really incredible jobs with their theses. I think we all have very publishable materials and projects that they have accomplished. I think one of the things that we also enjoy here at Ursuline is being a small liberal arts college. We're very close actually to our upper administration, and I'm always very thankful that our president, Sister Diana Stano, is this multi-talented wonderfully supportive lady, and so she pays a lot of attention to what the students are doing, supports what the students are doing, and when she's out in the community, I know she actively is watching for resources for the students, but also connections for them as well. And so we've enjoyed a lot of support from the school itself. Certainly we've seen students who've worked with our Vice President for Institutional Advancement and Development Office in coming up with projects. And so there's a lot of energy and vitality here. Really, I think, all thankful to have been a part of the Ursuline community and the Ursuline tradition. I want to thank you. I hope that you come visit us on campus or visit us on the web at www.ursuline.edu. We're very thankful that you tuned in today. And if we can answer any questions, we'd love to open it up at this time and do that for you.
Thank you, Bari, and thank you all for attending today. It was a great webinar. And we're going to invite you all to start asking questions if you have any. And while we're waiting for you to send those in, also I would just like to give you a few announcements about some other things happening with Heritage Ohio coming up. There's one more webinar today at 2 p.m. for Youngstown State University's Historic Preservation Program, so we hope you attend that one as well. And also coming up on May 2nd, the Cleveland Land Bank is going to be doing a webinar with us on land banking and how your community can set one of those up. So again, that's on May 2nd at 1 p.m. And finally, our Preservation and Revitalization Conference is coming up. It's going to be in Toledo, Ohio this year, downtown Toledo, at the Grand Plaza Hotel. That's going to be May 8th, 9th, and 10th, and you can find more information about that on our website, www.heritageohio.org. We're going to start off with a few questions. First of all, is there an application deadline for people? Can they just apply at any time, or is there a strict deadline for them to attend?
We have, at the master's level, rolling admissions, and to a degree rolling admissions at the bachelor's level as well. With the master's students, I usually suggest that they try to think at least 4 to 6 weeks out from the semester that they think they might want to start their program and get their application materials in at that time. It's particularly important going into summer, because in summer we're usually on more of a skeleton staff as the administration's taking vacations and getting ready for the academic year, and of course the professors are not usually on campus from mid-June through mid-August, and so an application process can take a little longer at that point. But other than that, rolling admissions, and certainly the bachelor's degree level, we have students that come in every semester, so you don't have to come in the fall. I think fall is the best time to come in, because that's when a lot of introductory courses are first initiated. But students can come into the program any semester, and they can be admitted at any time.
Thank you. We have a two-parter question here. What is the average class size? And also, do the majority of the students do the bridge program, or are they outside of the bridge program? So are they doing undergraduate and transitioning quickly into master's, or are they specifically doing undergraduate, or are they specifically doing a master's degree?
Well, as far as where most of the students are, we have far more students that come in from another bachelor's degree and come into the school and do their master's. We have a smaller group that actually does the bridge program. And I think a part of that is oftentimes students go off to their undergraduate degree and they spend an incredible amount of time exploring, and of course in the liberal arts that's what we want them to do, is explore all the various options. So a lot of times students aren't coming in straight to a bachelor's in preservation, and then after they've explored, then they make a decision. But the bridge is there for them, and we hope that some of them take advantage of it. So any way that they come in, they are welcome. As far as class sizes, we're a small liberal arts college, and our class sizes are small. I think an optimum size for a graduate class is 6 to 8 students. I don't believe I've ever taught a graduate class here that was over 10. And on occasion, it's 3 or 4. So you really get a lot of intensive work done in those small classes. At the undergraduate level, I've never taught an undergraduate class here that was over 18 students. And in the major, the class sizes tend to be smaller, usually 6, maybe 8 students, about the same as a graduate level class. So class sizes stay pretty small for us.
Thank you, Bari. And we have another question here from a listener. They're wondering if there are any scholarships available through the university or for the specific program.
Okay, at the undergraduate level, we do have the plethora of traditional financial aid, and thank you right now to the financial aid office for handling that, because it can be complex and they're very skillful at moving our students through it. They will also work with the graduate students. We have 2 scholarships that are generally available at the graduate level. They're usually awarded after students get into the program and prove themselves, and then we're able to award those scholarships. So we do have scholarship opportunities. We have offered assistantships through the program, and those 2 are usually students that we get to know a little bit, and Mary was a graduate assistant in the preservation program a year ago. We also work actively. I mean, oftentimes internships are not paid, but any time that we can work a student into a paid internship, you know, that's something we're doing as well. So Mary had a wonderful internship experience in which the sponsoring agency paid for a number of her course credits. Right now I have another young preservationist who started out as a volunteer intern with the Cleveland Heights Planning Commission, and Emily has done so well that they wrote a grant and they have hired her as a paid intern. So we have a number of those options as well, and we work hard to get paid internships for the students whenever possible.
Thank you. And a question just for myself here, the program, what's on the horizon? Any neat projects coming up? Any cool trips you guys are going to be taking anytime soon?
Cool trips. Well, I think the next cool trip, and I hope it's going to be a really cool trip, is Heritage Ohio over in Toledo. So I hope we're going to see all of you out at our state conference. I hope to see many of my students at the Restoration Society's May Awards banquet, which that's always a wonderful, wonderful awards reception there. I don't know that you'll see it at the National Trust, since it's clear over in Spokane in the fall, but the fall after that, Indianapolis will be there. Cool projects. Right now we have several inquiries for projects down in the Akron-Canton area, in the Mansfield area, Longwood with Heritage Ohio, the Vermillion Institute in Mansfield. So students are going to be interning this summer out in Mentor at the James A. Garfield National Historic Site, which we old-timers know affectionately as Lawnfield. What else are they doing? Some thesis projects coming up. Emily is doing Kane Park Theater in Cleveland Heights, which I think is very, very exciting. I've got a couple of other students working on some Heritage Corridor projects out in the Painesville area. So lots of neat things coming up.
Sounds great, Bari. I'm not seeing any more questions, so we're going to end the webinar. And I'd just like to again thank Ursuline College and Bari and all the students for attending today. That was a really great webinar. And you can find more information about Ursuline College. Bari, do you want to give them any contact information or website?
The website is www.ursuline.edu, and of course that will take you, after a series of steps, straight to both the bachelor's and the master's level preservation programs. You're always welcome to email. It's bstith, B-S-T-I-T-H, @ursuline.edu, and then we'll get back to you, or to email either the undergrad or graduate admissions, and they're wonderfully quick about getting back with information. And I would like to thank Heritage Ohio for not only bringing us this webinar today, but for always them staying in tune with what's going on with preservation in Ohio and the wonderful resources that they bring to this profession, this endeavor. So I thank you, Devin, so much for coming up from Columbus to be with us today.
Well, thank you, Bari.
Actually, the silent person in the room, Jeff Langendorfer, who was here from our IT department, just in case we needed him, and I want to thank Jeff for being here as well.
Thank you, everyone, and thanks for attending today, and we'll see you at the next webinar.